The Denver Broncos finally get some good news on the injury front, and while we just had our 3-game win streak come to a screeching halt, it starts back up tomorrow as Sean Payton triumphantly returns and takes these Denver Broncos marching into New Orleans to defeat a very beat-up New Orleans Saint team that I think even when they're fully healthy, I think this is a great matchup for us. We're going to break down the injury front. We're going to break down why I think Bo Nix is fixing to absolutely go off as he gets a chance to play in front of Sean Payton's protege, Drew Brees, who's going to be inducted into their Ring of Fame at halftime. We're going to break down some other awesome advanced analytics that have come in. It is wild to me that the Denver Broncos are going to win their 4th game tomorrow when every single national outlet picked us to win only 5 all season, and that our first 4 wins, 3 of them are going to be on the road in times when we weren't favored, and it's just really good news for us as Denver Broncos fans. So diving into it, the first really great piece of good news is that we have 2 starters who were pegged to be starters from day one who have very, very, very high upsides returning to our starting lineup. We were in a 1-score game against one of the best front sevens in football with literally our 4th string right tackle. So we know our 1st string right tackle was Mike McGlinchey. The 2nd string was supposed to be Quinn Bailey, who got hurt in training camp, and everyone was like, oh, that's not good. So then Palczewski came in, and he played amazingly. Well, then he went down, and so we went on to Matt Pert. So the fact that Bo Nix was able to put up the production he did with a guy that no one would even guess would even scratch your starting lineup is wild to me. And then he's on a backup center as well, knowing that Forsyth went out or Wattenberg went out, and so Forsyth had to step in. So the fact that he played so well in a 1-score game against one of the best defensive fronts in the league is fantastic, and that is not going to happen tomorrow because Mike McGlinchey is back. I am pumped because that offensive line was humming. He struggled a little bit early on, but the last game he played fully healthy, he was one of them ones, guys, and I think he's going to keep Bo Nix clean all night tomorrow. I think Bo Nix is going to be putting up some incredible numbers, knowing that he's playing in Sean's backyard, knowing that he's playing in front of friends and family of Sean Payton and Drew Brees. All those comparisons, he's thrown with Drew Brees and worked with Drew Brees, and he's a mentor of him. I just think we're going to see an incredible offensive performance for him, knowing what this Saints defense let up last week, knowing what they've really let up all year, that they average letting up almost 400 yards a game. I think we see Bo Nix throw for 300 yards tomorrow and really shut up the rest of the NFL. Other fantastic piece of news on the Denver Broncos side of the injury front is that we are getting back the leader of our platoon of edge rushers. We have gotten so much pressure. Zach Allen has popped. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the entire game right now. We've seen Cooper get his. We've seen Jonah Elliss come on. We've seen Nick Bonito be the first Denver Broncos outside edge rusher to get 4 sacks in a row in consecutive games since Von Miller. And the guy that everyone thought was going to be the leader in the clubhouse coming into this season was Baron Browning. Well, he is back, and so we are now talking about being able to throw waves at guys. We know Vance Joseph loves to bring the pressure, rely on his corners to be in zero coverage and to get their guys locked down. And the bad news is that we will be without Pat Surtain, but I think we are in very good shape knowing who we are going to have to be actually guarding without Pat Surtain. If he has to miss another game, this is the week to miss because the Saints are also down. They're starting 2 wide receivers. So Chris Olave had a very similar head injury and is in a concussion protocol, just like Pat Surtain. And then they're also without Raheed Shaheed, who's also a great special teamer, very speedy kind of guy. And so they're also without Taysom Hill, who's doubtful to play. And so you're really talking about a backup quarterback in Spencer Rattler, who the Broncos passed on, who the Broncos evaluated and have tons of film on him in college, have all of last week's game to evaluate, and they're also without their 3 best offensive playmakers outside of Alvin Kamara, who has 3 different things listed under his name under the injury report. He has a hand thing, he's got a lower body thing, and something else. So I just think this is a perfect matchup, and of all weeks to not have Pat Surtain. I also think the fact that Vance Joseph knows right now he doesn't have Pat Surtain, and we saw him kind of scramble and play soft coverage to keep everything in front, not knowing, hey, how do we realign these kind of things with Levi Wallace back, with Jaquan and with Riley Moss. He now has this entire week knowing he didn't have Pat Surtain. I think Riley Moss is going to be up to the task, knowing that he is really playing a third and fourth string receiver. Their starting receiver, I had to read this 2 or 3 times and then Google it a few other places to make sure this is actually true. Their starting receiver tomorrow night is a guy named Bub Means. So if there's ever a week for us to be without the services of Pat Surtain, it is this week. I'm not scared of anyone on their offense outside of obviously Alvin Kamara, but who knows Alvin Kamara's tendencies and what he wants better than Sean Payton. I just think Sean Payton has drafted or brought most of this team in on free agency, and so it is just a perfect matchup for us. A really great opportunity for us to just wash that Chargers loss out of our mouth and really be staring straight ahead at the future, knowing we have 10 days rest, 10 days to make sure McGlinchey's feeling like himself and Baron Browning's feeling like himself, 10 days to acclimate what is Audric Estime going to look like in this offense. I think we're going to start to see a lot more of him tomorrow night. Hopefully we get to see a little A.T. Perry in the game, the speedster that we were able to pluck. I'm sure the New Orleans Saints regret heavily moving on from A.T. Perry and trying to hide him on their practice squad, because without a doubt, he would be starting this game for the Saints, especially with all that they are struggling with now on the offensive side of the ball. So as we are looking at some of our players who are returning, it's going to be important to kind of watch how are Baron Browning and Cooper and Elliss and Bonito all kind of meshing in there, because we are going to have some cap decisions that we're going to have to make this offseason. And so you might see a world where if Baron Browning shows flashes or doesn't show flashes, do we try to move on from him knowing that we're not going to probably be able to keep him and Cooper, or do you wait until NFL free agency, and if one of those guys goes and signs a bigger deal, we get a compensatory pick for them? But knowing that the Detroit Lions just lost Aiden Hutchinson, knowing that the Hassan Reddick stuff, there's just a lot of trades that are going to be happening over the next couple of weeks, and maybe we move on from Baron. We were able to pressure the passer without a doubt without Baron Browning. So I think this defense is elite with him in it and is very good with him out of it. And so that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. A lot of people out there calling that this is going to be the best game we've ever seen from Bo Nix. I do not doubt that whatsoever. Laying out for it. He is playing against a second-string defense that Sean Payton knows extremely well, and I think that bodes extremely well for what we're going to do. And again, PS2 is out. I think the other thing that we're going to see that's going to be different is, do not be surprised whatsoever. We saw an aggressive Sean Payton in that Tampa Bay game that we won the coin toss, and typically teams defer, and Sean Payton said, no, I want to set the tone right here. And so he accepted the ball. A beautiful deep pass to Courtland Sutton right off the jump of that game set the entire tone for it. So if the Saints win the toss and give us the ball, he's going to be itching and jonesing to go do that. And do not be surprised tomorrow if we win the coin toss, if we elect to defer and you start to see the tempo that Sean Payton has been talking about this week. He knows that that's when Bo Nix is flourishing. And I think of all times, he's going to really just go all gas, no brakes tomorrow. Also, just looking at, like, we're trying to build on that fourth quarter of Bo Nix's game on Sunday against the Chargers. That was not just like one of the best quarters that we've seen here in Denver in a long time. It actually is one of the best quarters for quarterback in the entire NFL in the entire season this year. So if you take a look at Zach Stevens had a tweet that it was like truly the highest completion percentage, the second highest number of touchdowns in a quarter, the second highest number of yards in a quarter, and that was against a great Chargers defense. And so I think we really are going to start to build on that. Nationally, it feels like some people are coming off of Bo Nix, and I love that we have this chance for a primetime game to show that he is every bit as talented as Caleb Williams. And there have been a lot of pretty hilarious little memes or memes. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Let me know in the chat. I'm just kidding. It's pronounced memes. But I saw this and I thought this was incredible. And it was like appropriate work interactions at the top and then inappropriate ones at the bottom. And so you have Caleb Williams as this one at the top. He's thrown for 9 touchdowns, had 5 interceptions, had a fumble lost, and has not played any defenses in the top 15. And so you see him talking to this lady. She's like, oh, you're so sweet. Like, hey, this is acceptable. And then down here, you see almost the exact same numbers, except for he's played 3 top 7 defenses this year, and then he hasn't had a chance to play against a bad defense like the Jags or like the Titans or any of those. And so you look at his numbers on paper are so comparable with the Caleb Williams, yet he has played infinitely better defenses than Caleb Williams has. And so I think watching Bo Nix ball out of control tomorrow with all the hype that's going to be around Drew Brees' induction to their Hall of Fame, I think we are going to see the national narrative change around Bo Nix, and we're sitting at 4-3 with the Panthers coming to town the week after. We're talking 5-3. The playoffs are not out of question, and I think we have a lot to believe in. I got to get another one. There we go. Ball don't lie.